So how can a TV show about a paragliding accident possibly explain one of the most complex political divides on the planet? Well, today, we're going to use a global phenomenon to do exactly that. I mean, just think about the premise for a second. It sounds completely made up, right? A South Korean billionaire heiress gets swept up in a tornado while she's paragliding and crash lands on the other side of the world's most heavily fortified border. And yet, this totally fantastical, impossible idea, well, it became the starting point for a story that didn't just capture a nation, but the entire world. It's a love story that could only exist because of a border that was literally designed to keep people apart. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the show itself. Crash Landing on You, or CLOY as the fans call it, and just how massive this thing really became. The plot is, at its heart, a classic forbidden love story. You've got Yoon Seri, a brilliant and super successful CEO from Seoul, who ends up on the North Korean side of the DMZ. She's found by Captain Ri Jung-yok, a stoic but kind-hearted North Korean officer who, instead of turning her in like he's supposed to, decides to hide her and try to get her home. Now, what's really fascinating is how this story hit home in South Korea. The show's finale pulled in a 21.7% viewership rating. For a long time, that made it the highest-rated drama in its network's history. It wasn't just a popular show, it was a cultural event. But its success didn't stop there, not even close. It exploded into a global phenomenon. It hit number 6 on Netflix in the US, became the number 1 show of the year on Netflix in Japan, and got rave reviews from major international publications. This wasn't just another K-drama, it was a worldwide sensation. So you have to wonder, why did this particular story, set against this very specific political backdrop, have such a powerful pull? To really get it, we need to zoom out from the fiction and look at the reality it's based on. You know, even with the whole world falling in love with K-pop and K-dramas, a 2024 survey showed something pretty striking. When foreigners think of Korea, the number one thing that comes to mind for over 83% of them isn't pop culture, it's the security threat from the north. That single division still defines the entire peninsula's image to the world. And this gets us to the central question, doesn't it? It's the same question that fuels all the drama in the show. How did one people, with one shared culture, end up so completely and tragically separated? To answer that, we have to go back in time, all the way back to the conflict that created this division in the first place, the Korean War. See, this division didn't just happen overnight. It started in 1945, after World War II, when the US and the Soviet Union basically split the peninsula along a line on a map called the 38th parallel. By 1948, that temporary line had hardened into 2 separate states. Then in 1950, the North invaded the South, kicking off a brutal 3-year war that ended in 1953 with an armistice, which is just a ceasefire. The human cost of that war was just catastrophic. An estimated 5.2 million people, soldiers and civilians, were either killed, wounded, or went missing. It was one of the most destructive conflicts of the 20th century, and it tore the nation apart, creating millions of separated families. And here's the most important point. The war never officially ended. The 1953 armistice just hit the pause button on the fighting. No peace treaty was ever signed, which means, technically, North and South Korea are still at war to this day. And that reality is the invisible wall that Seri and Captain Ri have to overcome. This state of war is most visible in one specific place, that strip of land where the whole story begins, the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. So what is the DMZ? Well, it's a 248-kilometer-long, 4-kilometer-wide ribbon of land that cuts right across the entire Korean peninsula. It's called a buffer zone, but it's actually one of the most militarized borders on Earth, packed with landmines, fences, and armed guards. And this is where the show takes its biggest creative leap. On screen, the DMZ is this magical, beautiful forest where destiny strikes. In reality, it's a zone of incredible tension and danger. The show does something brilliant. It transforms a symbol of conflict into a stage for romance. You can feel the emotional weight of that border in one simple, heartbreaking line from the show. When Seri finally gets a chance to cross back to the south, her farewell to the North Korean soldiers who protected her is just this: don't get hurt. In those 3 words, you feel the entire impossible tragedy created by a single line on a map. So, all of this brings us to our final question. Why did this blend of fantasy, romance, and harsh political reality connect so deeply with so many people all around the globe? Well, the show's writer Park Ji-eun probably said it best. She explained that while a lot of other stories focus on the big political conflict, CLOY focused on the small, daily details of life in the North. At its core, it's a drama about longing, and she believed audiences everywhere found a universal human connection in those specific, everyday moments. And that was the key. The Washington Post actually called its portrayal of North Koreans groundbreaking because instead of showing them as a faceless ideological enemy, the show depicted them as, well, as ordinary people. Gossiping neighbors, loyal friends, people with their own dreams and their own worries. It completely replaced political caricature with genuine human curiosity. The creators of the show themselves had this fascinating phrase they used to describe North Korea and their early plans. They called it a strange, scary, curious, and wondrous country. I love that. It perfectly captures the exact mix of emotions the drama tapped into. It acknowledges the fear and the unknown, but it leans right into the curiosity and the shared humanity that lies just beneath the surface. And so, Crash Landing on You leaves us with a really powerful thought. Through a complete fantasy about a paragliding accident, millions of people around the world saw North Korea not just as a headline, but as a place where people live, love, and long for connection. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world that's so full of walls, can a story sometimes create a bridge where politics has failed?